Anthony Moyles has joined us in studio. Good morning, Anthony. Thanks for coming in.
No bother, gents.
So, Tailteann Cup semi-finals in Croke Park, on television, in a prime spot. Like, you can't not be entertained by that, right? This is everything we've been asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think there was 16,500 people at it, much the same as last weekend. The games were excellent, I have to say. You know, the Cavan game was just end to end, flat out. You know, loads of entertainment, loads of great scores, loads of mistakes, loads of opportunities, loads of goals, loads of missed goals. I had a bit of everything. I'm delighted, you know, and I kind of look at the four teams and indeed the four managers. And I was reading a good piece on Mickey Graham over the weekend about how they kind of came together. And they said, right, you know, after the disappointment of the defeat to Donegal, they said, right, are we going to give this a lash? And they all decided as a panel they were. And you know, you can see it. You can see that they want to win it, and all four teams that were there were busting a gut to get the win. So you know, it's just brilliant to get those teams back into Croke Park. It's brilliant to have the lads have an opportunity to continue their season and get some silverware at the end of it.
The first game was a cracker. It felt at the end, this was the one that got away for Sligo in particular. There were chances there in that second half for them to take this game. Yeah,
there was. I don't think really. I always thought Cavan probably had enough. I think a little bit more experience. Gerald McKiernan, I thought was excellent for them and really, really good when they needed him at certain times, just to kind of get a score or influence the game, win a kick out or whatever it was. There definitely were chances for Sligo. Like it kind of reminded me of the Sligo are starting to get that kind of swashbuckling style back again that they had when, you know, back in the day with O'Hara and guys like that. Davy and fellas like that, where they just would, when they go on a roll, they can really hurt you, and especially up front. They've got some really good forwards. They could have had 4 or 5 goals. You know, I felt really sorry for them, but to be fair, there was some unbelievable last-ditch defending by Cavan, like fellas who didn't give it up, you know, went back and, you know, as from a defensive point of view, you're looking at it and saying that was really, really excellent. You know, they got their hands in, they got flicks away, they got blocks, and as I say, they never gave it up, which showed the intensity and the desire of both teams to go ahead and win that game. Yeah, Sligo could be unlucky, but I just thought Cavan just had enough to pip them in the end, even if they had got a few goals.
Games like that feel really important as well for the success of the competition from other counties looking on, and whatever about the crowd was, you know, a decent crowd, and they worked it well that they were all in the same stand and it seemed to build a bit of an atmosphere. But too often when we see players from these counties, it's almost in a negative light. They're playing very defensive football against a Division 1 side. They can't express themselves in any way. Like, you come away from watching that first game yesterday between Cavan and Sligo, like, these are some of the best footballers in the country. Like, they are exactly what they should be shown to be. They were able to show off their skill set. We don't see enough of that. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's like the Shackles. Like, honestly, you know, I had to watch back the game because I was on Father's Day duties yesterday. I was in the middle of Jurassic World yesterday.
Father's the other way around. You get to do what you want on Father's Day.
I know. Well, not quite. But anyway, I was in and out getting more and more popcorn. Every 5 minutes, can we get more popcorn? Can we get more? So that's
after your last Croke Park experience, I think maybe you made the decision.
Yeah, I think I did.
You got a popcorn problem in your house.
Yeah, I did. I did throw the opportunity. The old, I threw up the chance of going into Croke Park, but it was like, not that place again. So I'll just let it fester in their mind. They might forget about it in a year's time. But no, it's like I didn't expect to see what I because I stayed away from the results, so I just wanted to watch it fresh. And literally from minute one, it was absolutely brilliant. And as you say, Nathan, there is a kind of an idea. I was laughing with Colin outside. I was saying Cavan, you know, poor old Cavan, they don't deserve to be in Ulster because they play quite expansive and go at you type football. And Mickey Graham, like, he's playing the type of football. There's loads of mistakes. It kind of reminds me, and I'm not just saying this, but, you know, like, when you were playing kind of in the mid-2000s, there's a lot of kicking, you know, and there's a lot of, and if it goes right, it looks really brilliant, but then sometimes it goes wrong, the defender comes out in front, but there's lads taking chances and taking risk all the time, and they're trying to move the ball as fast and as quickly and as progressively as possible, either by hand, but mostly by foot. Fellas in the forward line who are willing to take on their men, they're not looking to recycle the ball, you know, they're willing to have a go, and yes, they get dispossessed, or they get blocked down, or they kick shots short, But it was absolutely, like, it was. I have to say, it was refreshing to see. You know, it really was refreshing.
But
to
that's
see.
what that should be. Like, if you were to compare it with soccer and the difference between the Premier League and the Championship, like they would always say in the Championship, they're helter-skelter games. You can afford to give the ball away because they'll give the ball back to you again. Whereas when you go up a level, if you give it away, like if a Westmeath or a Cavan go up against, if they go up against Tyrone, they're not getting that ball back. But actually at this level, at their level, you can afford to do that because you will get it back.
Yeah, and it's funny, and I think none of the 4 teams went out with that kind of. There was men behind the ball. You know, don't get me wrong. There was men behind the ball, but none of them got the ball and then dropped the level down, as in, okay, we'll just slowly build this. Everyone just went, as I say, hell for leather. Like Spillane was just the engine on that lad, up and down the pitch. His driving runs was unbelievable yesterday, and he dragged Sligo back into that game after they had a bit of a tricky start. Like they missed 4, 5, 6 chances handy in the first 10 or 15 minutes, you know, bad shot selection. It was kind of like nearly that they had to get their eye into Croke Park. But then, look, it's. I think what has to happen is a lot of these teams, when they go in against the bigger teams, have to cut their cloth to measure against them. So what they do is they end up setting up defensively, right? So they set up in a way that they either are in the game for the last 10 or 15 minutes, or that they don't get an absolute tank. And now you're never going to go into the game with that mentality, but you're going to go in and you're saying to the team, look, we're going to go in here 10 minutes remaining that we're still in the game. So by virtue of doing that, they set up defensively, they train defensively, and then they look to counter. But yesterday they're going, okay, we're going in against a team who are on our level. So we're not going to do that. We're actually going to be, as you say, show who we are, show our ability, and go at them. And try to do all the things that we can do. Now, the argument is should they do that anyway against the bigger teams? You know, and just say, you know, feck it, we're trying to develop our game.
You come on here on a Monday morning, we all say they're naive and...
Yeah, you probably would, and you would, like, you know. But there's been teams. You look at, say, Westmeath and Offaly. You know, teams have been getting hiding from Dublin for the last 10, 12 years. So really, does it make a difference? You know, so when you go into those games, I just don't know. I think there's this big question of. And it probably comes on management teams via county boards or supporters, which is where is a team's, what is the team's journey? What's their identity? What's a success look like for that team? And what the Tailteann Cup has afforded these teams is that is success. That, you know, if they progress and they win that, it is success. So people can, you know, who are bemoaning this at the start, it's an LB competition. It doesn't make a difference. It shows progress. Because if you go and you get hammered out the gate in Connacht or in Leinster or in Ulster, whatever it is, by a far superior team, by playing a defensive setup, which is not really your natural setup, well, then you've learned nothing. And you haven't progressed during the year. You know, all the stuff you've been doing and training is getting ready for this game to say we're going to shut up shop. But you're actually looking, going, you know what, those lads are actually good players. I wish we could actually play a bit more of an expansive game for them. But I have this game coming up, and if I do that, the supporters or the media or whoever, the county board, will absolutely kill me for it. So fellas go for, well, let's protect. And they go for, as I say, maybe the less risky opportunity or the less risky way of playing. Whereas, you know what, I think you look at the management teams there involved. You look at the fellas at what they're trying to do. They obviously have support from their county boards, and I would hope, and I feel, and I even see it. It's funny. I was driving in. I could even see some Cavan flags on the way in. So Cavan people in Dublin, like, supporting the Cavan team. But you know, it's important that they have a journey, that they have, as I say, what is success, and they try to get these key measures that they can tick off as they go. And what the Tailteann Cup for me has provided outside of the league is another competition where they can say this is progress.
You say that if a team sets up in such a way, they'll get slammed on a Monday morning here if they do it. We're awfully naive, and should we be slamming them this morning for the way they approached the Westmeath game yesterday afternoon?
We won't slam them. I think Offaly, where there was, like, look, they lost their captain during the week with a cruciate ligament injury, I believe, and then they had a virus in the camp which was going around, and they looked in that first half that they were just completely devoid of energy. You know, they were falling off tackles, the energy up and down the pitch. You know, for a number of the players, not all of them, but for a number of the players, 4 or 5 of the players was just lacking. I don't think Westmeath were doing anything unbelievably brilliant. But I just think Offaly were pretty awful in that first half. Now, the start of the second half, when they really went at them and they decided, actually, you know what, we're going to go into a game here. They got themselves a bit better defensively set up, because in the first half they were so wide open down the middle, it was unbelievable. And nearly Westmeath ended up with one extra player in their forward line, which I was kind of going, how can Offaly actually be affording this? It was just too easy for Westmeath in the first half. Second half they got themselves a bit more together, and they showed what they can do, because again, you're looking at progress, and Offaly, there is some serious talent in that Offaly team. Very, very young, serious talent. Forwards who can take on shots. Like, one of the best goals you've seen probably in the championship this year was scored by the young lad who came on. I can't remember his name now, but the outside of his right boot, bang, top corner, absolute screamer near the end of the game. Fantastic finish and a fantastic goal, because he sets it up, he goes for the 1-2, great determination, and puts it in the back of the net. But you know, if I'm Offaly again, and if you're Michael Dignan, and if you're all the people in Offaly, you're saying to yourself, you know what, okay, we bowed out against Westmeath, we showed good fight. Maybe the measure of the result was probably a little bit more favourable to Westmeath. A bit naive at the back. If we can tighten it up at the back, if we can get a bit more of a defensive structure, we have the forwards to probably really build on and punish teams over the next number of years. So, you know, it's, again, I just go back to it, that those lads, they would have been gone, you know, and they'd be back with their club, and, you know, whereas they're staying there and they can get those extra 6 or 8 weeks with a management team, and they can keep building and keep trying to get things right, and bring in new fellas. And then all of a sudden you can see fellas, even, you know, when you're 10 or 12 points behind and you have a player who just throws up the white flag and says, oh, listen, I'm done, or gives a black card or gets a red card or something like that, you know to yourself, this guy isn't really made of it. But if you see fellas digging in, you're putting marks beside them for the following year, saying, do you know what, these guys have done it in that situation and they nearly brought us back. So as a management team, you learn an awful lot. But no, Offaly will be disappointed, of course, but I think there was some mitigating factors as well in their preparation that didn't help them.
Cahill Flynn, by the way, the fellow who scored that incredible goal for Offaly yesterday. So the Tailteann Cup final is going to be a 3 o'clock throw-in on the 9th of July. That'll be a curtain raiser for the semi-final on the Galway Armagh Derry Clare side of the draw. You obviously had a double header yesterday in a prime spot, nothing else going up against it. The GAA have clearly made an effort of putting the spotlight on this thing, or at least allowing it to flourish. What would you change for next season, or have they got this thing right in season 1, do you think?
I think the Tailteann Cup final should be on the same day as the All-Ireland final.
You do, yeah?
Yeah. I think it should be, absolutely, and I think, why not? You know, I think you've got in there, you know, like, look, I think there's probably things that you could tweak, and there's certain ways, and, you know, you'd probably have to talk to the players and say, listen, how did you guys handle it? How did you find it? You talk to the managements involved, and you get just an understanding of what works best. There's plenty of time in the calendar, as you know. So,
can I just ask, is it like I don't know, is this an elitist mindset? Like, would you put the Europa League final on the same ticket as the Champions League final? Like, I mean, the European rugby setup, I think anyway, have a good setup where they have the Challenge Cup final on the Friday, the Heineken Cup final on the Sunday or the Saturday. Like, you could do a Saturday-Sunday setup potentially.
You could do a Saturday-Sunday.
Maybe not. Maybe you do put them on the same ticket, and, you know, forget the extra 30,000 tickets that won't go to the two Sam Maguire, or for the Tailteann Cup counties as well. The sharing of the tickets and all that.
There is the share. Yeah. So look at me. You know, people will jump up and down and say, listen, it's hard enough to get All Ireland final tickets, so, you know, now you're going to make it really impossible. Absolutely. You would probably have the argument that the minor sometimes was on, obviously, in the past, so that might draw from the senior anyway.
Yeah, fair.
You know, so until I think maybe initially, like, I mean, from what I can see, and even seeing the papers and the press, and, you know, I think, you know, initially there was all this kind of giving out about the Tailteann Cup, and it was like there's no such thing as bad publicity. It was the best thing for it because people were talking about it. Now I think people have actually looked, and if people really sat down and watched those games yesterday, or even went into it, they'd see 4 teams going at it, who you could quite clearly see wanted to win their games, right? They weren't just throwing out the jerseys and saying, Jesus, this is a post-season campaign here, and it's a bit of a disaster. We don't really want to be involved here. I think the final will be a cracking final, and it will be full of quality, and it could be better than All-Ireland final, as a spectacle. So, you might go into that day and go, Jesus, I wish this was on the Sunday if it was on the Saturday. It's hard to know. Nathan's point about, the fact that the fear is gone. You can see there was no fear in those teams yesterday. There was no fear of being beaten. There was no fear of not getting their tactics right. There was no fear of being lambasted. There was a kind of like, this is a free shot. And they went out and they played with abandon. They just went at it. And that's fantastic to see. And you kind of go, Jesus, why don't more teams do this?
Yeah.
Whether it's in the provincial championships or whatever it is later in the day. Like, of course you have to tip your hat to a team and have strategies and tactics and all that stuff. But for me, I think it's the only way to go at football or to go at sport.
Yeah, well, I think next year, if the round robin comes in, which I think it's expected to for the Tailteann Cup, again, that makes a massive difference because as a manager, you can sit down and almost plan out your year and say, well, regardless of what happens in Leinster or Munster, we know we're going to be playing 3 more games, so book yourselves in, lads, right till the end of May.
Yes.
And suddenly you've got your 6-7 league games. You've got 10, 11 matches throughout a year, all of which are important.
Yeah.
And that's what the players want. That's what the manager want. And generally all against teams at your own level. And it'll be fascinating to see how this builds into next year because Westmeath finished 3rd in Division 3, so they should be the best team in this Tailteann Cup. If they go and win this, you're guaranteed a spot in Sam Maguire next year, regardless of what happens in the league. But do they now kick on? Do they take confidence into Division 3 next year and say, we are the best of the rest and we can build and actually start to close the gap on Dublin or maybe even beat a Meath or a Kildare in the Leinster Championship? That's what you want from this.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100% is what you want. And as I say, it's also, I think it is about finding... when you have the behemoth, which is Dublin, and we've spoken about this in the last number of months, when you have them in Leinster, what happens is, and I heard the interview with Andy, with you guys a couple, or whatever, last week maybe. When you're talking about, what is your focus every year? What is your focus every year? And no matter whether you're Kildare, Westmeath, Meath, whoever you are in Leinster, is it to win Leinster? Is that your ambition every year? Because if I went in, I'm just saying, let's say, slagging earlier on, say you go in for the Meath job and someone says, well, what's your ambition this year? I'm not saying to win Leinster. Because if you win Leinster, you're winning the All-Ireland. So is it, are you going in and say, oh, I want to win the All-Ireland? So you're saying, actually, no, our focus this year is, without being the usual, to be as competitive, but actually to show what is success for us, right? So our league basis has to be success. So you're in the top 2 or top 3 in the league. That's what you're really pushing for. That's what or even top 4 in Division 2, which is where you are, or whatever it is. If it's Westmeath, Cooney's sitting down now, he's saying, right, lads, we need to build on this. We need to get out of Division 3, and we're pushing to get into Division 2. We're looking for a good run. But then if...
I think quarter-final.
All those different things. But, but the Tailteann Cup then affords you, as you rightly say, Nathan, it lets you map out as a management team and as a squad, right, this is where we're going and this is where we need to focus. We have this and this is what we want to achieve by the end of it. And then at the end of it, we'll decide whether we had a successful year or not based on whatever happened during the year. But at least it gives you, it's not an all or nothing thing, bang, and the next thing we're into the qualifiers and sure, who knows? We could meet someone massive or we could meet someone and we go on a bit of a run or not. There's a pathway, if you get me, and it's something
the more
that's
interesting
very, very
pathway would be if the winner of the Tailteann Cup, if there was a way of fixing the calendar, which doesn't seem available now, if the winner of the Tailteann Cup got into an All-Ireland quarter-final at the end of
the same year,
and suddenly you have this wave of momentum, and Westmeath are going in, and you're looking at a draw. Potentially a favourable draw against one of the qualifiers, whatever way. I don't know if there's any way of figuring that out.
I think that would be a fantastic idea.
Because then it's in the same. Because the one issue for Westmeath or Cavan now is they won't play a game again after this for 7 months. So while we're talking about momentum, that's a hard thing to keep through.
Or maybe winter. You know what? Whoever gets into the final. To be some hell of a difference of motivation for teams in the Tailteann Cup then. That they find their way back in, as you say, back into the latter stages of the qualifiers. Maybe not I don't know what way you would do it, but
who's going to win that final?
I was impressed with Cavan yesterday. I really was. But again, when they looked to be massively in control of the game, Sligo could have had 5 goals. Westmeath were very, very efficient. I think obviously in Heslin they have a player who is in imperious form. He's just, doing everything he needs to do up there, and he'll take massive watching. I wouldn't be surprised if Cavan just put 2 players on him and then see how the rest work out. But they've a nice little forward line, Westmeath. They've got a little bit of danger everywhere, decent midfield, strong at the back. It's going to be a very, very tight game. That very, very tight game. I can't call it. I think it's going to be massively, massively close.
It is then this weekend, All-Ireland football quarter-finals weekend. Could I get one word for each of the games? So
yeah, go for it.
Let's go Derry Clare first.
Derry.
Dublin Cork.
Dublin.
Galway Armagh.
Armagh.
That's the big one. Kerry Mayo.
Kerry. Sorry,
sure about
that? I am, but I tell you this much: the more it goes and the closer it gets.
I know.
What's the story with Clifford, if you don't mind? Or are you not allowed? I'm sure the Yarra, I'd say they're pressing the red button at the moment.
They might rest him again this weekend, won't they, for the Dublin game?
I think it was like, I think it was maybe like 90 minutes between the text last week being like, Clifford's out and Clifford's flying in training and good to go.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly, yeah. I
don't know. Nobody knows.
It's funny, the more I think about it, and maybe it's just one of these things where you talk yourself into it, but I think Mayo are perfectly suited for Kerry. In the sense that, as we know, the Kerry defence has really improved this year. The Mayo forward line isn't fantastic this year, but Mayo's main strength comes from 2, 3, 4, 5 and 7, bombing up the pitch. And that will not be liked by the Kerry full forward line. They will not want to. Stephen O'Brien will do you. He'll do your donkey work up and down, no bother. As will who's usually on the other side.
The Adrian Spillane or something.
Spillane or one of the. But will David, if they manage to take off the cotton wool, and will Gainey, will the rest of the lads, will they fancy chasing the boys, Keegan, O'Hara, and the rest of the lads up and down Croke Park?
They don't like running. They don't like it up in Kerry.
Oh, well, listen, the arrogance
they're
thinking about Dublin in the semi-final. They have the hotel rooms booked in Dublin for the weekend of the semi-final against Dublin.
You'd want to have them booked, to be fair.
That's fair enough, but I'm just saying, you've got the arrogance of Kerry on one side and the humbleness of Mayo people on the other. And let's see what
I believe they'll probably just book the hotels right through. They'll probably just say, listen, we'll just keep going all the way through to the end. So we'll be here again.
Yeah, it's true.
Get a discount.
Yeah, I'm sure you could always just a few of us could get together, put up a few couches for the poor Kerry players when they get to the All-Ireland semi-finals, if it comes to that. Thank you for bringing your humility to proceedings this morning.
Would you say this Kerry team is already better than the Dub 6 in a row winning side?
Just about level par, I'd say. Okay. Just one might have a nose in front. Anthony, thanks for popping in this morning. Enjoy this weekend.